Hi, everyone. I am Jeanette Mulvey, the editor-in-chief of Co. by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for joining me for our very last episode of Start, Run, Grow for 2022. Thank you for joining us for all of our events this year. Today, we are highlighting business owners and talking about business certification, how you go about doing it, and why it's important to your business. And throughout the program, you will be able to ask questions of our speakers. We have both small business owners and experts, and we'll be asking you a poll to weigh in on a poll later, which you'll be able to tell us a little bit about what your business is doing in this area. Now, before we get started, I would like to thank our today's partner, Sharpist, and our series sponsors, Dell Technologies, FedEx, Iron Mountain, MetLife, and Oracle NetSuite. We appreciate all of your partnership in this series. So let's get ready to introduce my first guest in our start session. Okay, so I'd like to introduce my first guest, Alexis McSween, founder and CEO of Bottom Line Construction. Alexis has been here before, and we were super excited to invite her back to talk about this topic because I know it's very important to her. Alexis and her company were a Dream Big finalist last year here at the U.S. Chamber, and her business, Bottom Line Construction, is a 100% woman and minority-owned construction and development company in New York City. They are proud to develop inclusive communities and transform how these communities live, work, and play. Welcome, Alexis. Thanks for joining me again.
Thank you, Jeanette. Thank you so much for having us again. And CO
Yes.
and as well as the sponsors.
Yes. Oh, go ahead.
Good.
I was going to say you were the first person we thought of when we decided to talk about this topic, because when I interviewed you last time, this was something we ended up covering a lot, even though we hadn't planned to. So we're going to talk a lot about being certified. Tell us about your company, what you do, and why and how you became certified.
Thank you, Jeanette. So first, I want to just let you know that I purposely took this invite. Today would have been my mother's 76th birthday, and she was absolutely phenomenal. And I want to dedicate this episode to her, so to speak. But we are as you know, we're a certified firm. We're a general contractor and a developer in New York. We focus generally on public projects, large commercial projects throughout the tri-state area. And I am passionate about this topic because the certifications have really helped us grow to where we are now.
So tell me, first of all, what certifications does your business have?
So we have a plethora of certifications. We have the MWBE certifications, the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise certifications. We have certifications with various organizations and within New York, such as Columbia University. We have New York City School Construction Authority, the MTA, the Port Authority, New York, New Jersey. We have, we also have an LVE certification.
So there's, and you know what, I'm glad I asked that question, because your answer illustrates that there are a lot of different certifications that come from a lot of different authorities, both state and national. So tell us, go ahead, and you were going to add to that. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
So tell us why, you mentioned that you do a lot of public work. So tell us why it's important to get your business certified.
So being certified, really, in all fairness, is just giving you a seat at the table. So you and I know there's a lot of work that goes into not only the certification, but post-certification. And having that certification basically lets businesses, organizations, states, governments know that you have the minimum requirements to be able to perform the work or the job.
How is it sounds to me difficult and overwhelming, and I would be afraid to even start trying to figure this out for myself. So how difficult is the process? Did you guys do it for yourselves, or can you hire a company to do it for you?
So you definitely could hire a company. I would think that most organizations that are entering into certification zone have been in business at least a year. And so they may still be a small company. So I wouldn't know, I wouldn't say to jump out and hire someone right away. I would say go ahead and start that application on your own and with your team if you have a team. You can use various software or project management tools to sort of keep everything together. The great thing about certifications is that they're very similar. The application, the questions, they're pretty much asking you a lot of the same things, and you're going to have to get that information together for each certification. So typically, it's best to tackle several certifications around the same time because you're going to need your company financials, licenses, insurances, things of that sort. So it's best to do it all at once. And it'll help because when those certifications come up to be for you to be recertified, you'll have those same documents. You know, you're going to have your quarterly financials up to date. And those are all things that can add a lot of stress when you don't have them and you're trying to fulfill the certification process. So I definitely would say, you know, try tackle it on your own. A lot of the questions are repetitive and a lot of the information is repetitive.
So that was actually great advice that I wouldn't have thought of. That if you do it at the same, if you do multiple at the same time, then when you have to redo them, they'll be renewed at the same time. So because it's really not just information, it's also documentation, right? So you have to gather all of this documentation. And if
Yes,
you do it at
yes.
different times, then you're going to have to regather it because the time frame will be different. So thank you. That was a really good piece of tactical advice. I want to make sure that we are being really, really clear with the people who are attending in the audience today about why you would be certified, because I think I'm making an assumption that everyone knows, but they may not.
Right.
So you mentioned public work. So can you first address the public work piece of it? Why certification is important as it relates to doing work for a public entity?
So when you're doing public works, you know, they basically have requirements, and those requirements might speak to your certification. For example, if they have an MWBE requirement, in New York, there's a 30% requirement for public work, similar to some other states. That one of the first steps would be for you to be certified. It's basically, like I said, letting that agency, government know that you have the licenses, the insurances, and all of the things that you would need to fulfill those contracts. And it's not just construction and development contracts. It's you can be certified for so many different businesses. You know, there's catering, there's marketing. You know, the list is endless. So the certification, I feel, is a must because it really does give you that seat at the table. And a lot of people can be disillusioned and feel, well, you know, I have these three certifications and they haven't given me any work. But I will definitely tell you the work starts at the certification. So that's when you're able to really take advantage of those networks that those organizations are affiliated with, whether it's small business services or you know there's Minority Supplier Development Council. You know, that's a national organization. They have a regional chapter. You know, all of these organizations have resources. And so it's just a good place to start. And it just gives you a seat at the table.
So that's great information in terms of making you eligible for this work.
Mhm.
I wonder, is there a second piece of the puzzle for you? And maybe the answer is no, but I wonder, do you leverage your certifications also in terms of marketing your business and identifying just to the public in general who you are and what you do? Do you use that as part of promoting just your identity of who your business is?
For us, it's definitely a stamp of approval, so to speak. It's on our marketing material. We want clients and organizations to know our certifications, that we took the time to fulfill the process, that we can also fulfill some of their requirements that they might be saddled with, um, how long we've been certified. Those certifications actually expire and you have to renew them. So it's extremely important, I feel, for a business to get certified. And it's not just licensing and insurances. Sometimes it's as simple as making sure if you're in a certain class, you have all of your birth certificate so that you can prove where you're from. All of these things make a difference. If there's different certifications that focus on your local business, you have to have proof that you're in that area. So there's a lot of, things that let the purchaser know that you're capable and certified to do the work.
Do you mentioned before that you have to renew them. So
Yes.
how often do you generally have to renew a certification?
Most certifications are between 2 and 5 years.
Okay.
And the renewal process can be pretty extensive. For example, if it's the DBE, disadvantaged business enterprise, there are requirements. There's net worth requirements as far as your income and all sorts of things that could impact. So if your income and your net worth has increased tremendously since you previously had your certification, it might deem you not able to get that certification renewed. So there's a lot of factors that impact, the dynamics of your business. If I'm the sole owner of my business and I decide, hey, I'm going to give, 51% to another person, then we may not be eligible for certification any longer. So all those things come into play.
Right. Now, do you feel so? Does being certified subject your business to regulations or requirements that other businesses that you're competing with are not subject to?
Definitely, yes, because think of it this way: whatever you came into that certification with, whatever insurances, licenses, all of those things, they have to stay consistent. So, for example, the DBE will give you what they call a certificate of no change. So it's not a renewal of your certification, but it's basically saying that this business has maintained the criteria to be certified with us. So yes, you do. Those are, but if you think about it, you can't operate a business without insurance. There's certain things that legally we have to do anyway. So it kind of falls into line with those certifications.
So I guess I have a question here that is basically saying, are there any drawbacks to being certified? Now, I feel like you've already kind of listed a couple, which is that you are subject to these additional potentially regulations, and obviously the documentation is time consuming. Beyond that, do you feel there are drawbacks? Clearly, you think it's worth whatever the drawbacks are because you're doing it anyway, but do you want to just give
Right.
us some fair warning on what other drawbacks might be?
I think the biggest thing that I've seen, and I try to be a champion and advocate for folks, but the thing is, people can become a bit discouraged. That's more of an emotional and time spent drawback, right? Because you're feeling exhausted. You have this business. You've been in business for a year at least, and now you have to fulfill all this paperwork, and people question and scrutinize you as a company, and you can take it sort of personally. And so I would say that one thing, don't take it personally. Even myself, after being certified for many years, had a situation with an agency where I couldn't find I had to locate my mother's death certificate. So that was an emotional drawback, right? It wasn't personal, but I had to do that to prove, who I say I am, right? So the drawback, I would say, is probably more time spent and emotional, but the benefits, if we take advantage of it, That's the other key, right? If we're taking advantage of it, if we want to be on those listservs, because that's where your name and your business goes. Once you're certified, they hold a database. So whether you're DBE, MWBE, whatever certification you've achieved, you're on a database. So as soon as a client needs your help, they go to that database and they'll solicit you. So I would say the benefits definitely outweigh the drawbacks.
I'd like to go to our audience Q&A in the last few minutes that we have with you. This person asks just generally, how long does it take to complete a certification? I think they mean like once you've submitted it, how long does it usually take to be certified?
Sure. So in New York, the really great thing is that they've actually streamlined the certification process compared to when I first started filling out applications. So you actually get like a two for one, or 3 for 1. So that's kind of good. So I would definitely start there. In New York, we have small business services. You would get certified in New York City, and then we have, which is pretty quick. And when I say pretty quick, please consider, did you give them everything you needed? Did you really thoughtfully go through the application and provide everything so that there's not so much back and forth? So I would say a few months, right? Now for state, it's actually a little longer, but they're working on it. That would be Empire State Development, and they would be the ones who accept your application for state. That can take that can be a lengthy process. So please don't wait until you find the types of work that you want to get involved in and then say, oh, they said we need to be state certified, so we're going to go do that. I would say do
Sure.
that, take some downtime with the business and do the certifications.
This person is asking if they don't have a service or product based business. For example, I guess they have a tech based business. They're asking if you think it's worth it to be certified. So, what are your thoughts generally about? Is it industry specific, or do you think that everyone who can be certified should be?
Sure. Well, I hope this makes sense. We can keep it simple. I would compare it to when someone says, do you think I need a college degree? Right? So the college degree doesn't necessarily mean off the back that you're going to be successful, but it definitely puts you in a better position. So I would say the certification is not going to hurt you, but please get the low hanging fruit. Whatever the low hanging fruit is, your state, your city certification, get that first. All of their SDVOB certifications for service and disabled, all of those things put you in a tremendous, so much, there's so much of a need. It puts you in a great space. So yes, tech, yes.
Great. Can you believe that we are already out of time? Thank you so much. Happy birthday to your mom. Hope you get a moment
Thank
to
you.
sit and celebrate her today. And thank you,
Thank you
Alexis, so much for joining us. And we're going to find a reason to have you back again next year. So you have a
so much.
great
I
holiday
appreciate it.
season.
Good luck. Thank you, everybody, for having me.
Take,
Bye-bye.
take care, Alexis. Okay, so we are going to pause now for a little transition to our next segment, and then I'll tell you all about who our next interview is. Okay, so next we are going to hear an interview with the founder who left behind her job in finance to open a successful bakery in Chicago. Her name is Teresa Ging, and she is the CEO of Sugar Bliss. She opened her business 15 years ago, and after becoming certified, has continued to expand exponentially across numerous markets. Now, Teresa took time from her bakery in Chicago to join Co's senior features editor Barbara Thau in a conversation about her business story and how her certification has impacted her growth. So let's turn it over to Teresa and Barbara.
In 2005, Teresa Ging was 6 years into a high-powered career as a financial analyst working at Wall Street firms like Credit Suisse. But she'd grown despondent by the glass ceiling inequities she faced as a woman of color in the financial sector. So Teresa did something radical. She quit her job to follow her baking muse all the way to Paris, enrolling in Le Cordon Bleu's patisserie program. 2 years later, Teresa launched Sugar Bliss, a cupcake catering business. And in 2009, she opened a Sugar Bliss bakery in downtown Chicago. This year, Sugar Bliss made the big leap into national retail with the launch of a cookie line in 40 Walgreens stores selling flavors like sea salt chocolate chunk, which sounds delicious. I'm so pleased to welcome Teresa, who will share how she's funded and scaled Sugar Bliss by leveraging the standing as a certified woman and minority owned business and by tapping her own background as a financial analyst, too. Welcome, Teresa. I'm really happy to have you here.
Thanks a lot for having me.
So you have a great story, and it's fascinating the leap you made. So in 2005, you were working as an equity research analyst, right?
Correct.
And you were passed up for a promotion.
Right.
Uh, I'm curious if you could just share how that disappointment led to the launch of Sugar Bliss.
Yeah. So I had been in finance for about 6 years, did investment banking, private equity, equity research, and I enjoyed being in finance. It's just, the politics of everything. But I was up for promotion, and that day I found out that I was not promoted and that there were other women in my class that were not promoted as well. And when I found out the news, a friend of mine, I was visiting in the New York office, and she was making cupcakes that day, and she was just sifting powdered sugar, and just kind of that repetitive motion of maybe just like snowflakes, dust, powdered dust, or coming, that it kind of like was my aha moment. And so I left. I was which is kind of funny because I always think about like that was my light bulb moment. So I went back to Chicago. I bought a bunch of cupcake books and started researching how to make cupcakes because I'd never baked before. And, I was like, I think I kind of need a break from finance. So I left the industry, enrolled into pastry school, and then headed off to Paris for a couple months just to learn how to bake.
Wow. Uh, I'm curious about just to demystify and unpack that next leap, right? In terms of uh, grounding the business, launching the business, and then funding it. Uh, when you launched the business in 2007, right? How did you fund it? And what did you learn from that journey about what it takes to successfully finance a new company?
Yeah, so at the time I was looking at a real lease, and I needed to build out the space, and so I did a business plan, and I figured out how much money I needed, and so I went to an organization in Chicago called the Women's Business Development Center. You can't just go into the bank and say, I need $200,000 to build a cupcake store, even if you have long-term relationships with that bank. So what's great with the WBDC is that they formulate a loan package that has like your, personal financial statements, your credit score, and all that stuff, and they present it, help you present it to three different banks. So I went to three different banks, and I got two out of the three loans. And I'm not sure if I told you this beforehand, but one of the banks I actually got declined, and I was like, why did I get declined versus the other two banks accepted? And she said to me, she's like, you're just too young to open a business and you don't have a secondary income. And so that was kind of my second moment of just kind of hitting the glass ceiling. And I was just like, well, that's not a criteria. Did you look at my personal financial statements? Did you look at like my business plan? No. So I ended up calling the bank and finding out her manager. And I said, I'm looking for a bank to help me open one Sugar Bliss or 100 Sugar Bliss. And the very next day I got the loan for that bank. But I ended up going with another bank that kind of treated me right from the very beginning. But yeah, I mean, I basically went the loan route versus the investor route. I guess kind of that saying, like too many cooks in the kitchen. I just kind of rather go on the banking route where, I just pay my interest and principal every month.
And that's interesting how you didn't accept that answer. So that's a lesson.
Yeah.
You went to the manager and then ended up getting that loan, right?
Yep. Yep.
That's a great teaching moment, not to just accept that, that answer and answer at face value. To look into a little bit, your background is rich in terms of not everybody who's starting a business or a startup is going to have that financial grounding. I'm curious about, in terms of how that played into growth, launch, scaling. How did your skills as a financial analyst, I mean, you're covering the actual sector that you're leading now, right? So consumer packaged goods, right, as well as the food service industry. How did that contribute, to Sugar Bliss's success, first of all? And then what are the actionable insights from that financial know-how that other small businesses can leverage? I just want to say, I remember you saying when we spoke that, quote, you understand numbers and you have higher margins than most bakeries. And what company doesn't want higher profit margins? So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know I went to University of Chicago. I was an econ stat major. University of Chicago is not a very easy school, and I had a strong work ethic. And then given I did investment banking where I was working like 80 to 90 hours a week and crunching numbers, like I think given the, academic and work background that I was in right when I was graduating from college, made me have a strong work ethic. And so I think that really helps with like running a business. Like, yes, you have employees, but like, last night I was up until midnight decorating hundreds of cookies for the holiday packages. It's just like, it's our crunch time now. So, having that work ethic, again, financial analysis, like when I went to the bank, and it was funny, I just met with one of my original bankers. She had switched to a different bank, and she still remembers my business plan. And she said it was like such a great business plan. And the funny thing is like I mimicked my business plan like a pitch book when I did investment banking, competitive analysis, like, the financial models and all that stuff, organizational structure. So I basically took what I learned in finance and made it into a business plan for my business. I definitely think, knowing numbers, like as entrepreneurs, we are passionate about what we do. And for me, I mean, yes, I'm passionate about, the bakery and stuff, but it's all about making money, right? So I think with my background in finance, I was able to figure out, okay, what do we need to charge? What are our costs? What do we really need to know on the bottom line? And then I know we talked about this, like, not every industry or business you're going to have like another competitor, public competitor that you can look at their financials and be like, okay, are we similar? I mean, even if, there was another cupcake place out there, which there was at one point, there was a Crumbs Cupcakes. They went public, I think, in the 2000. And, I definitely looked in their annual report, their 10K, and looked at like their numbers, their financials, how much they were spending on rent and their margins and stuff like that. And was like, oh, we're actually doing better than them. I mean, I understand they're a public company, and they probably have a lot more overhead. But I mean, those are really great resources as a small business to look at, how you compare. And it's almost like kind of like a research report, free research report.
Absolutely. And I think that that's really good information, because I don't know that, that new businesses necessarily or startups are looking at it almost from a trade publication. I think we
Yeah.
talked about that. Studying other companies, there's a lot of public information out there about your industry, to your point, as well as market trends. I
Mhm.
think we talked about, and
Yeah.
that
Yeah, I mean, there was when I was first started, there was a blog called I think Cupcakes Take the Cake or something like that, and they had every single cupcake competitor on there. And I went and looked at their websites and you know found out which websites I liked, what offerings and stuff like that. So I mean, now there's Instagram and Facebook and all those that you can see all the competitors. So looking at hashtag, I think we follow hashtag Cupcake or hashtag Chicago desserts and stuff like that, so that we see things on our feed. A couple years ago, hot chocolate bombs were kind of the trend, and they still are. But I mean, we did thousands of hot chocolate bombs and stuff like that. So we're always looking at like trends, and it's great to follow like social media, TikTok and stuff like that. Even if you don't do TikTok, you follow them and you see the trends.
absolutely trends, and then literally data, competitive analysis on an industry that you're in,
Yes.
even if you don't have a direct competitor. I'm curious about, you said that you had that had you known what you know today, you would from day one have gotten Sugar Bliss certified as both a minority owned business and a woman owned business. First, how did you get certified? And also, how have these certifications benefited your business?
Yeah, so when I first, obviously you get your business license and then you're like, okay, running your business, and then you hear like certification. And the thing is like I knew about the WBDC from the very beginning when I started, and I knew they had certification. But somehow I thought certification was just doing government contracts. I didn't realize it was like doing with corporations. And so I ended up getting certified like 10 years after I started. And I mean, again, it's like I wish I had gotten certified at the very beginning. It's not that costly. I think it's like under $500 for each certification. I mean, it depends on your sales and stuff like that, but I think it's around $500 to $1,000 a year. So the certification, there is the NMSDC, which is the national chapter, and then the Chicago MSDC, which is they basically kind of is where I mean, each region has their own like regional partner, and so the Chicago one is our regional partner, and so we do a lot of they do like a lot of events, and like earlier this year they had an event with United Airlines, and it's hard to get in. The buyer. You can try to even find the buyer, you can find the supplier diversity, but when they have these like event, it's great so you can meet the supplier diversity and the buyer at the same time to get your product in front of them. Also, with being a woman owned, I also can be women certified. So there's the We Bank, which is the national chapter, and then the WBDC, which is the Chicago chapter. And I'm in both, all four organizations. I'm on their newsletters, so I get to see like what events they're putting on, what what's kind of thing, events, grants, things like grants as well. I've gotten a lot of grants because I was on their newsletter, so it's been very beneficial for us. And now, like with the Walgreens and the bakery, like our brochures, we put women and minority owned, and so with the Walgreens launch, we wanted to like distinguish ourselves. Like we're just not just cookies. We want to be, we have obviously like premium quality cookies like a sea salt chocolate chunk or a rainbow sugar or OMG, which has Captain Crunch potato chips pretzels, which you say, oh my God. But in the front of our packaging has women and minority owned, and on the back it has women and minority certification. So we want to identify with customers that see it like a, like they're understand like a social mission brand. And then 10% of our proceeds go back to support women and minority entrepreneurs. So, you know, going out to retailers, like they're always asking you like what differentiate yourself. And also like a lot of these retailers are trying to figure out, doing more business with the diverse and women owned. So it's a great time to be certified, and also with corporations. I mean, we do a lot of businesses with like Chase and Kirkland and Ellis, and they have like they want to spend money with women and minority owned. And so it's great that they ask for our certifications, and so it's not just being women and minority owned; it's also being certified. It's given us a lot of opportunities out there, including like we're hoping to be in more retailers next year, including Kroger and maybe on the airlines as well.
So this is critical. So in terms of national certification, the takeaway, and then local certification, right, has been critical.
So it's all national, but you go through
Okay,
the regional partners. They actually kind of go through the certification process, but you are nationally certified.
got it. So let's pull the curtain back a little bit on how you broke into big retail. So Sugar Bliss has launched a cookie line, congratulations, this year in 40 Walgreens stores in the Chicago market. How did you do that?
Yeah, so again, being certified, the WBDC has a great program that they put every year called Top Shelf, and it was sponsored by Walgreens. And so I basically looked into it, seeing, how do I learn to be into mass retailers? I didn't even have a product at the point. Like we obviously sell cookies in the store, but we didn't have anything shelf stable or packaged. And so it's such great that the WBC put this program together. It was an 8-week program just to learn about how to be in mass retailers. And then you also pitch to other retailers. So there was like Peapod, True Value, and Walgreens. And even before the pitch, I was able to connect with the buyer. She actually reached out to me and was said, we have cookies at the store. Do you have something packaged? And I was like, we're working on it, but we don't have it completely done. And so she was great that she worked with us the last year because we had to, finalize the packaging and get our facility GMP certified, which is good manufacturing practice. And so it took us about a year to onboard and get everything done. And then we finally launched. But I probably would never have gotten that opportunity had I not been certified or know about the Women's Business Development Center. So I'm grateful for that opportunity.
That's huge. Connecting with big retail via certification, essentially, right? And
Yeah,
getting the
yeah,
exposure.
yeah.
So what's the takeaway in terms of if you have a insider tip or strategy for other startups, companies that want businesses that are interested in landing partnerships with big companies that they could know that you could offer that could so they could make that big leap. What would that be?
I hate to like say it over and over again, but I definitely think being women and minority certified, if you can do both, that's great. Or one or the other depends. You have to have 51% of your business be women or minority, so it is a little tricky. The process is, it's you have all the documents. It's just like you have to spend a couple of days like uploading and stuff. And so I think sometimes people look at that process and feel like it's very daunting and then just like, never mind. But honestly, once you get certified, the renewal process is super easy. But the opportunities, if you want to do business with, government, if you want to do business with corporations, they're looking at, how to do more business with minority and women owned. So it's a great time to get certified right now. So I would definitely, if I was to tell myself 10 years ago, I would definitely do that. And also, like, once you get certified, it's not that the business starts coming in. Like, you have to actually go on and put yourself on the supplier diversity portals, so that they know when they have an RFP, like, oh, they're doing a big event.
That's right.
And
A request for proposal for our audience,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure you put yourself on the portal, and then you also have to be really patient and like, just kind of keep at it. You go attend events. Like there was an event that's coming up with the Hilton, and so I'll attend it on a webinar and hopefully get to talk to the buyer then. So you have to be proactive with your certification as well.
So be proactive with it. Be giving you it's work, but it gives you an incredible platform to big business, right, and to government, to even government partnerships. Your biggest growth opportunity, and we can go on for 2023, and why?
Yeah, so it is just to continue to expand into more retailers. Hopefully we will expand into 300 more Walgreens next year. Also add Kroger as well. And then we are talking to airlines and a food service company that also has products in sports arenas, hotels, yeah, hospitals, and hotels. So we're hoping that we're going to be a national brand and that you'll see Sugar Bliss everywhere.
Fascinating. So a diversified retail hospitality strategy, distribution strategy. What's one success strategy that you can share with other entrepreneurs, small businesses, startups looking to grow, scale?
I would definitely say, listen to your customers. When I started Sugar Bliss, we had only cupcakes. We had 20 plus flavors. And, over the years, we've adapted and, listened to our customers, added cake pops, French macaroons, cookies, brownies. We have a vegan and gluten-free options as well. So, listening to your customers and seeing what, trends and stuff like that. So I think that has been really important for us to grow as a company. And now we even do like different packages. I wish we had done packages back then, but they're really great. We have a holiday package that has like 2 cookies, 2 macaroons, 2 cake pops, and so they're really easy for like shipping and stuff like that. So listening to your customers and seeing what the trends are and what they're interested in, I would, definitely as a success for, growing your business.
That's great advice. This has been terrific. Thank you so much. I so enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks, Teresa.
All right. Well, thank you, Barbara and Teresa. That was actually a great interview. Now, before I move on to our next segment, I want to do a little audience poll. So, audience, here is your question. You can vote there on the right-hand side of your screen. What is your biggest challenge in certifying your business? So, let's see. Hang on, I'm not seeing the poll yet, but we're thanking our partners, and we do thank our partners. So thank you to all of our partners. You guys are going to vote, and if I don't see the results soon, we'll move on. Okay. Do we want to move on, or do we want to see the results? I don't know. The suspense is killing me. I'll thank our partners again. Thanks to Dell, FedEx, Iron Mountain, MetLife, Oracle NetSuite, and Sharpist. Okay. Okay, I'm going to read you the results. We are finding out that 47% of our audience is in the process of understanding what's possible in terms of certification. So that's a pretty big chunk of the audience. And I think we're going to go ahead and move on. So, yeah, so let's have our transition. Let's do our transition now, and then I'll introduce our next guest. Why don't we do that to our Okay. Oh, and there I see the survey results now. All right. So these first two conversations were about certifying your business. And so when I say certifying your business, that's obviously a public thing. You're certifying yourself and for the public and to know who you are. But as a business owner, you also need to know who you are internally. So you have to figure out, what is your identity as a business owner? What are you great at? What do you specialize in? And that can be a really overwhelming thing for someone who is either just starting a business or who is busy running their business every day and doesn't have the time to take the time to do the work, to figure out, who am I as an entrepreneur and how can I leverage that to make my business great? So luckily today we have an amazing guest. His name is Fabian Niedballa, and he is the founder and COO of Sharpist. Now, Sharpist is based in Berlin, and they are focused on providing coaching and leadership development for organizations through an app-based solution. Now, Sharpist coaches are internationally certified and help business owners face challenges, build their teams, adapt to a fast-paced environment, and remain resilient, which is something Fabian and I are going to talk about, all while measuring their progress in terms of how they're doing through this coaching. So, Fabian, that was a very long intro. Thank you so much for joining us and being I know you waited a long time. So tell us about Sharpist.
First of all, thank you so much for having us and me, Jeanette. Super inspiring stories I felt from both guests we heard previously. I'm really hungry for one or the other cookie now, I have to admit. So yeah, about Sharpist. So Sharpist is the world's largest coaching platform for leadership development, and we work with some of the world's largest companies like Siemens or IKEA, but also we've learned that the challenges that we're solving for leaders in those larger organizations are equally relevant for the smaller businesses and smaller business owners particularly. And so we work with a pool of more than 1,000 coaches all across the world. They are also certified, and that's actually important, especially when working with companies. We've realized as a platform, you can work on all sorts of topics, from developing an organization to building up your own resilience as a person before tackling any other challenges. And it's been a great ride. And at the end of the year, specifically. It's a time where you're faced with a lot of stress as an entrepreneur, almost as anyone, between buying Christmas or holiday presents for your loved ones, managing some end of year tasks or like tax returns, but also really, managing work things and your family obligations at the same time. And that's where especially coaching can be of great value.
And you mentioned the end of the year. I also feel like it's that time where people do take a moment to reflect and think about who they are and what their successes have been and where they would like to focus next year. So I think it's actually a great time for us to talk about this. I want to ask you some more general questions about business coaching, but I want to ask you first about Sharpist. So I said in my intro that it's app-based. So I assume that means that you can communicate with your coach using the app. And also, I just wanted to ask you, it's not like a program, right? So someone who's using your service can say, here's what I want to focus on. Here's what I need to help with.
That's exactly right. So it's all really simple. On your smartphone, you fill out a goals assessment, as we call it, where you identify, what's the most urgent and important topic that you feel you want to work on. We then match you, almost like a dating app, with a coach through an algorithm, and we have an in-house team that's verifying every match. So there's both a human and a technology element working together to make sure you get the best coach for whatever need you have. And the fact that it's app-based is really, really important, only because it allows you to interact with your coach in a very, very flexible way. You can do the session whenever it best suits you, from wherever it best suits you. So, one of the nice examples I find is we're working with one of Europe's largest construction companies, and here we've started with top executives, working on executive leadership, but also we're supporting construction site leaders who now for the first time are able to kind of quite discreetly disappear into a construction site container and work on themselves with a coach on their app, and that's never been able. That's something they haven't been able to do before that.
Yeah. So I love this because I love the idea that you, as a small business owner, can be doing the same kind of work that a CEO at a major, Fortune 500 company can. So can you talk specifically about why you think coaching is so important for an entrepreneur who might only have a few employees?
Yeah. It's a great question. I mean, starting and running a business can be a very, very challenging and demanding process, right? And having a coach can really provide valuable guidance and support. It goes from developing skills and strategies in order to succeed, but also holding you accountable as an entrepreneur to really fulfill the goals that you set out to, and really make sure that you stay on track. It can be particularly helpful for entrepreneurs maybe that struggle with self-motivation or discipline, and ultimately it's also a matter of making sure that you don't only look at the business and forget about everything else. Life is really we feel about bringing your full self to wherever you're going, and so you really need to integrate the two. And this outside perspective that a coach provides to you is ultimately what allows you to take this full circle picture. So it's so valuable and I cannot imagine how it might have been to start a business without a coach. Obviously, I'm somewhat privileged because I started a coaching platform, so obviously I started working with a coach from day one. But that's why we're here today, right? That's why I feel so happy and lucky to be here, because the audience here is I think comprises people from all sorts of backgrounds, from all sorts of different businesses, and what we're offering is really or coaching in general is relevant literally for anyone.
Yeah. So let's just, in the beginning, when I was introducing you, I was saying that the certifications that we were talking about earlier are sort of this public identity. But internally as an entrepreneur, you need to figure out like what is your entrepreneur identity. So can you talk a little bit about why it's important for a person who owns a business to just understand what kind of entrepreneur they are?
Yeah. So I mean, through a coaching relationship, ultimately you can explore so many things. You can explore your strengths and weaknesses and the values that are important for you, the passions that you that you feel are important to you, and really coaching is to a large extent about aligning these after getting clarity on these. And I think we've seen some great examples before where I feel the identity of the entrepreneur was so clearly linked to what the business is delivering, that ultimately your clarity on who you are translates directly into business success, and that can be in the domain of cupcakes or in any other domain as well. And I think, we as business owners, I feel probably most often struggle the hardest. Yes, when the financial results aren't there, but also when the sense of alignment between what you think your company needs to achieve and what you are able to bring to the table, and willing to bring to the table, when these things are not aligned. And so that's ultimately something that coaching can address, and it's a process, almost like working on mindfulness through meditation, that is fun, never ending, and kind of has the idea to bring out the clear identity of who you are at any given moment in time, because also that is not something that's just static, right?
Right. It changes, right? So I would imagine we talk a lot about delegating. Obviously, business owners just can't do everything themselves, and some of them have employees to delegate to, and some delegate in terms of by having partners like third-party companies that they might outsource some things to. So is part of the benefit of coaching that it allows you to know what you're great at and therefore possibly delegate the things that maybe you're not so great at or you don't love? Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, 100%. So, delegation is one of the topics, right, that you can work on, and it's a topic that really relates to the self. And I can just provide a very personal example, right? So I've been leading teams for the last 10 years. 10 years for the first time with one person, and since then I've never really asked myself, should I be a leader or not? It was always kind of required from me as a business owner and entrepreneur. From the start, that was what I had to do, building up the sales team, for example. Now I'm becoming a father in just a few days, could be happening any moment, and priorities are shifting, and so I needed to really ask myself, who do I want to be again, and what does that mean for the business and my tasks there, and my responsibilities. And so I needed to definitely say goodbye to a lot of things that were very, very important to my ego, including being directly in charge of the sales line. But it's something that I felt was not so perfectly combinable, I guess, with my new role as a father, or at least the way I want to play that role as a father. I want to be present there, and I know that if I take the direct sales responsibility over the next half year, then maybe too much of my presence goes into that, and I won't be able to bring myself to my family commitments in the way I want to. That's just one example. Delegation, again, is a very complicated topic. Actually, it's often easily thought of as delegating means I just give a task to someone and that gets done. And when you actually start working on it, you realize there's different layers of delegation, and it's always a function also of the people around you. So delegating to person A can mean something very different to delegating something, to person B. So, yeah.
When you and I talked before this interview, you had talked a little bit about resilience. And I think that ties back into this time of year where a lot of people are feeling burned out and tired, and they need a little bit of time to recover. And when we talk about resilience, we're talking about people having the stamina to be successful and growing and nurturing their business over a long period of time. In the last moments we have here, can you just talk a little bit about resilience and what role that plays in business owner success?
Yeah, so definitely, I think it's a great point you bring up here. So, I mean, we really at Sharpist, we think about personal growth in terms of different focus areas, and resilience is at the core of everything. Oftentimes leaders think of developing an organization. Well, that's only really possible when you're able to develop other people or lead people. You can only lead people if you can lead yourself, and you can only really lead yourself if you're a resilient person. And resilience is not something that you check off once and you're done. So it's literally a super skill that you need to hone constantly. And what it means, obviously, especially now in times of hyperinflation, war in Ukraine, and so on and so forth, you got to find strategies to appear in the way you want to, where it matters. And so resilient business owners are able to bounce back from failures probably somewhat more quickly. And you learn from your experiences and adapt. And so it's something that a coach can help a business owner develop by providing support, guidance, and again accountability as you face challenges and setbacks. And not just the business owner, really anyone in the business, right? That has multiple hats to wear or is juggling somewhat. At the end, it's also about developing some coping strategies, such as setting realistic goals, building a strong support network, and also just maintaining a positive attitude. So these are just a few bits and pieces that I feel are super relevant when you think about the broad, big topic of resilience.
Yeah. And you sort of answered, I was going to ask you this audience question about, someone said, what kind of mindset do you have to have when you go into business coaching? Like, do you need to be ready to change? So in our last 30 seconds or so, can you just talk about the kind of mindset the audience should have before they embark on coaching?
It's almost end the question, but the number one success factor for you to drive through your coaching is to be ready, to have an open mindset, and to be ready to change indeed, or to embark on a process that will make you a better version of yourself ultimately, if you're only open.
That's great. And I think our team dropped in the chat for the audience a link to how they can reach out to you. So that's great.
That is right. We have a special offer until December 31st. Let me just mention that at a price that would otherwise not be available. You would be matched with, best-in-class business coaches. There's a link we'll share. It's a special promotion that we're doing together after a very, very tough 2022 to hopefully, give you some hands-on support to take into the new year. Yeah.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much. It was really great to interview you today. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Take care. And then to all of our other guests, also thank you to Alexis and Teresa. Great interview from Barbara Thau. And thank you to the audience, of course, for joining me for this final Start, Run, Grow. Also, I just wanted to mention that I know we got a lot of audience questions about certifications. So I am actually going to get those after this event, and we will write a special article on Co answering all of the certification questions that we can. And we will make sure we send that article out to this audience, either through our Midnight Oil newsletter or through an events team email. So we'll be getting that out to you guys with answers to all those questions in the future. Thank you to everyone, and please check out Co. And we are ready to see you next year for our 2023 lineup. So everybody take care, have a great holiday, and a happy new year. Bye-bye.